Jack had never expected to be this far from Earth. He had signed up to serve in the human military. But he had always thought that his work would be limited to helping protect his people from local threats. He'd never imagined he would be sent on a mission to an alien planet, far from home. The planet Zera was a quiet one, far from the chaos of other galaxy regions. But today, everything was about to change. It started as a routine patrol. Jack and his team were assigned to check the area near the royal landing site, where a ship carrying Princess Alina was scheduled to land. Zera was peaceful, so the mission was supposed to be simple. She was the daughter of King Borin, ruler of Zera, and she was famous for her beauty and intelligence. Jack never thought that he would be in the position to meet her in person, but as he scanned the skies with his team, everything shifted. Without warning, alarms began to blare. Jack's hand gripped the rifle slung over his shoulder. Instinct. Taking over, he looked up and saw the smoke rising in the distance. The ship that was supposed to land had been hit. It was falling fast, spiraling out of control. The landing site was just miles away, but the ship's descent was too quick, and the chance of survival was slim. Move, 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 Jack shouted to his team. They sprinted toward the crash site, adrenaline pumping through their veins. Jack could hear the sound of the ship's engine sputtering, and then the crash. A deafening thud that shook the ground beneath his boots. They arrived at the wreckage, smoke and fire billowing from the shattered ship. Jack's heart raced as he looked around, scanning the wreckage for survivors. His team immediately began to help the injured. But Jack had one goal: the princess. He saw her lying unconscious near the edge of the wreckage. Her golden hair was matted with dirt, and her breathing was shallow. Jack knelt beside her, quickly checking for injuries. She was alive, but barely. The ship's crash had left her in a dangerous state, and there was no time to wait for medical help. With no other choice, Jack scooped her up, cradling her in his arms. She was lighter than he expected, but her injuries made her fragile. He couldn't waste a second. "Hold on, princess," he whispered, more to himself than to her. He began to run toward the medical station, trying to ignore the smoke and flames that surrounded him as he ran. Jack couldn't help but notice the look of peacefulness on her face, despite the chaos. Princess Alina was known across the galaxy for her calm and collected nature. Even in the middle of a crash, she seemed at ease. Jack knew this mission would change everything, but he didn't expect it to be so personal. After what felt like hours but was only a few minutes, Jack reached the medical area. The medical team was quick to act, taking over from him and beginning immediate treatment. They worked swiftly to stabilize her. Jack stayed by her side, not willing to leave her alone. The medical officers worked in silence, focusing all their energy on the princess, but Jack couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The princess had always been an icon in his mind. The news from Zera spoke of her intelligence, her calm leadership, and her beauty that could outshine the stars. Now, here she was, in his arms, fighting for her life. Jack didn't know what would happen next, but he knew he had done what he could. Hours passed, and Jack finally stepped out of the medical tent, his duty done. The team had stabilized the princess, and now it was up to her to recover. Jack was exhausted, but he couldn't rest. Not yet. His mind kept going back to her Alina. The princess. He had saved her life. It was his duty, yes, but he couldn't ignore the weight of it. Saving a princess wasn't something anyone could say they had done. As Jack sat down to catch his breath, a voice broke through the silence. "Soldier." Jack stood quickly and turned to face the voice. It was General Vorn, the commander of Zera's defense forces. The general had a reputation for being stern and uncompromising, and he looked at Jack now with eyes full of gratitude and something else respect. "General," Jack said, at his tone formal, "you did well today, soldier." "The princess is alive because of you," Vorn said, nodding slowly. "But be aware her father, King Borin, has already heard about your actions." Jack frowned. "I'm just doing my job, sir." Vorn's lips tightened, and he shook his head. "The king is not one to take such things lightly. He will want to thank you personally, and more than that, you may ask for something in return." Jack's heart skipped a beat. He had saved the princess's life, But now he was hearing that the king might demand something more. What could a king possibly want from him? He was just a soldier, no different from the others. Before Jack could respond, the general motioned toward the royal palace. "The king wishes to see you. Now." The royal palace was grand, its towering walls made of shimmering stone that seemed to sparkle under the twin suns of Zera. Jack had seen its beauty from a distance before, but standing before it now, he couldn't help but feel out of place. He was just a soldier, a human far from home, and yet here he was. Summoned to meet the king, General Vorn led Jack through the palace's halls, his heavy boots echoing off the polished marble floors. Jack tried to keep his nerves in check, but it wasn't easy. This was not just another mission. This was something far more important. He had saved the princess, Alina, and now her father, King Borin, was about to meet him. "Stay calm, soldier," Vorn said, glancing over at Jack. "The king will want to thank you for your actions, but be prepared. He is a ruler of tradition and duty. There's more at stake here than you might realize." Jack nodded, though he wasn't entirely sure. What Vorn meant? More at stake? He had only done his job, had saved a life. Wasn't that what any good soldier would do? When they finally reached the king's chambers, the doors were wide open, revealing a lavish room filled with ancient tapestries, rich rugs, and a throne made of what looked like crystal. King Borin sat upon the throne, a tall figure with a regal presence. His face was stern, but there was a hint of gratitude in his eyes as they locked onto Jack. "Soldier." The king's voice boomed, deep and commanding. "You have saved my daughter's life. For that, you have my thanks." Jack stood at attention, his hands clasped behind his back. "It was my duty, your majesty. No thanks are necessary." King Borin raised an eyebrow. "You are a humble man, I see. But you must know that your actions have consequences. You have saved Alina, my only child, and I cannot simply let that go without recognition." Jack felt a strange tightening in his chest. Recognition? He had only done what anyone would have done in his position, but King Borin's eyes did not soften. He stared at Jack with a serious expression. "I have decided," the king continued, "that you and Alina must form a bond." Jack blinked. "A bond?" "Yes, a bond," the king repeated, his voice firm. "It is a tradition here on Zera. The protector of the princess must form a bond with her, one that is not just a physical bond, but a spiritual one. This bond will ensure that the princess is never left vulnerable again, that she will always be protected." Jack's mind raced. He had heard of such traditions in other cultures, but never in such a direct way. A bond? What kind of bond was the king talking about? And why him? "Your Majesty," Jack began, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm just a soldier. I don't understand what you mean by a bond. I didn't do this for recognition or reward. I only did what was needed." King Borin leaned forward, his piercing gaze never leaving Jack's. "You misunderstand, soldier. This is not a request. It is a command. You are now tied to Alina, whether you like it or not. And for the safety of both our worlds, you will respect the tradition. Your actions have proven your worth, and you must now protect my daughter, not just as her soldier, but as her partner." Jack felt the weight of the king's words settle heavily on him. Partner. He was being told to bond with the princess, someone he barely knew. It wasn't that he didn't want to help her. He had already risked his life to save hers. But a bond? That was something far deeper than just protection. "Why me?" Jack asked quietly, his mind still trying to process what was being demanded. "Of him? Why not one of your own people?" King Borin's eyes softened just a little. "It is because of the prophecy. A human protector is said to be the one to bring peace between Zera and the galaxy. Only a bond formed with a human will have the strength needed to ensure my daughter's future. The galaxy is changing, and we must adapt." Jack looked down, his mind whirling. He had always thought of himself as a soldier, someone who followed orders, not someone who was part of a prophecy, had never been part of any grand plan. He was just trying to survive, to do his job. But now, the stakes were much higher. "The princess is not yet fully recovered," King Borin continued, his tone shifting slightly. But when she awakens, you will begin your training. You will learn the ways of our people, our customs, and our traditions. You will form a bond with her, as is our custom, and you will protect her from whatever may come." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. He was being thrust into a world he didn't understand, with responsibilities he wasn't ready for. Could he possibly live up to such a role? He was just a soldier. But the king's words echoed in his mind. "You are now tied to Alina." It wasn't something he could escape from. It was his duty now, whether he wanted it or not. Understood. "Your Majesty," Jack said, though his voice was unsure. He had no choice but to obey. King Borin gave him a nod of approval. "Good. I will give you time to prepare. But be warned, soldier, this bond will not be easy. The weight of the galaxy will rest upon your shoulders, and you must be ready for it. What is to come?" With that, the king stood, signaling the end of their meeting. "You may leave now. But remember, you are now part of this world and part of my family's future." Jack turned and walked out of the room, his mind still racing. He had saved the princess's life, but in doing so, he had unknowingly changed the course of his own destiny. He had a bond to form with someone he barely knew. Someone who was more than just a princess. She was the future of a planet, and now, his responsibility. The days following the royal meeting were filled with confusion and unease for Jack. He had always thought that being a soldier meant following orders, completing missions, and returning home. But now, he was facing something far beyond what he had ever imagined. His life had changed in an instant. He had saved Princess Alina. And now he had to form a bond with her, a bond that was not just about protection, but about something deeper. Something he could not yet understand. The palace was a busy place, full of servants, soldiers, and courtiers. The air was filled with the sounds of voices, footsteps, and the rustling of royal robes. Jack had been assigned a small room in the palace, where he would stay during his time on Zera. It was far from the comforts of Earth, but it was clean, quiet, and gave him time to think. But even in his solitude, Jack couldn't shake the feeling of being out of place. He was a soldier, not a prince or noble, and yet here he was, about to be tied to royalty. Every morning, Jack would wake early to begin his training. He had been assigned a mentor, Elda, an older woman who had served as a royal protector for many years. She was strong and quick, and her presence was calm, almost like a quiet storm. Elda was not kind, but she was fair, and she had a job to do: train Jack to become more than just a soldier. She was preparing him to become part of the royal family's future. "Out up, soldier." Elda's voice rang out one morning as Jack rubbed his eyes. "You have much to learn." Jack groaned, reluctantly sitting up in bed. Elda had made it clear from the start that she expected him to work hard. No exceptions. The first lesson was simple: physical training. Elda had him running, sparring, and learning how to fight like the warriors of Zera. The physical exercises were grueling, but Jack had grown used to hard work. It was the mental training that was more difficult. "You will need to know how to stand beside Alina," Elda explained, "not just as her protector, but as her partner. A bond is not only about keeping her safe, it is about being her equal, her confidant. You must learn the ways of the Zeran people, their customs, their traditions. You must understand their culture." Jack nodded, though he didn't fully understand. He wasn't a scholar, but a soldier. What did he know about culture or tradition? Yet as Elda began to teach him, he couldn't deny that the Zeran ways were fascinating. They had an ancient history, filled with warriors, kings, and powerful leaders. The bond he was being asked to form wasn't just a promise to protect the princess. It was a connection to a legacy that stretched back generations. As the days passed, Jack learned more about the Zeran customs. He learned that the protector-princess bond was not just about safety, it was about trust, loyalty, and unity. The protector was expected to stand by the princess, not just in battle, but in every aspect of her life. Their bond would be a symbol of peace and strength for Zera, and Jack, a soldier from Earth, was now to become part of that history. Jack was also given time to meet with Princess Alina as she recovered from her injuries. She was no longer unconscious, though she remained weak. Alina's room was grand, filled with soft, plush furniture and curtains that matched the royal colors of Zera. She sat by the window one afternoon when Jack entered, looking out at the vast city below. "Good morning, Princess," Jack said. Bowing slightly as he stepped inside, Alina turned to face him, her blue eyes meeting his. There was a hint of sadness in her gaze, but also curiosity. "So, you are the one who saved me," she said softly. "I suppose I should thank you." Jack nodded. "It was nothing. Just doing my job, Princess." Alina studied him for a moment. She was beautiful, more so than Jack had imagined. But it was not just her appearance that caught his attention. It was the way she carried herself, calm, thoughtful, as if every decision she made was important. Jack felt out of his depth, unsure of how to act around her. "I hear you've been training," Alina said, breaking the silence. "Training to protect me. But I wonder, do you even know what that means? To be bound to me, to my world?" Jack hesitated. "Not really, Princess, but I'm learning." Alina smiled, though it was a small, sad smile. "You'll need to. Bond we share is not something you can take lightly. It is more than just an agreement to protect me. It's about our future, our people. You and I will be tied together in ways you might not understand yet." Jack nodded slowly. He could see the seriousness in her eyes. This was not something simple, something that could be taken lightly. He had saved her life, and now he was part of something much bigger than himself. Over the next few weeks, Jack and Alina spent more time together. The training continued, but there were moments when they could talk. When Jack could learn more about the princess and her thoughts, she told him about her childhood, her dreams, and her duties as the heir to the throne. Alina was not like the cold, distant rulers Jack had read about. She was kind, thoughtful, and deeply committed to her people. It was no wonder her father had insisted she be protected, but as Jack spent more time with her, he couldn't help but notice the weight on Alina's shoulders. She had always known she would one day rule Zera, but the responsibility of leadership was not something anyone could prepare for. She was not just a princess. She was the future of a planet. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens, Jack spoke up. "Do you ever wish you could just be normal? Live a life without all this responsibility?" Alina paused, looking at him with an unreadable expression. "Normal? I don't know if I know what normal is. I have always known that one day I would rule, but sometimes I wonder if I'm ready for it. I wonder if I can carry the weight of my people's future." Jack didn't know what to say. He had never been in her shoes, never had to carry such a heavy burden. But he did know one thing: he would do whatever it took to help her. He had already promised to protect her, and now that promise felt even more important as they walked on in silence. Jack realized that he wasn't just training to be a protector. He was becoming part of Alina's world, and that was a responsibility he could no longer ignore. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing: he would stand by her side no matter what. It had been several weeks since Jack had started his training with Princess Alina. Their bond had grown stronger, and with each passing day, Jack found himself more connected to the princess and her world. His role as her protector had become more than just a job. It was now a part of who he was. He was learning their customs, their history, and the importance of the bond between protector and princess. However, even as the days passed and Jack grew more accustomed to life on Zera, a dark shadow loomed over the peaceful planet. News had begun to spread of an alien faction that had long been a threat to Zera. These aliens, known as the Vortok, were merciless conquerors who sought to control the galaxy through fear and violence. They had attacked nearby planets before, and now it seemed they were making their move on Zera. Jack could see the tension in the palace. The royal court was on high alert. Every day, guards patrolled the streets, and the palace walls were reinforced with shields that hummed with energy. The Vortok were coming, and there was little time to prepare. One evening, as Jack and Alina walked through the palace gardens, the heavy atmosphere of impending danger hung in the air. The flowers, usually vibrant and alive with color, seemed to droop under the weight of the tension. The once peaceful garden felt as though it was being suffocated. "I don't want to think about it," Lena said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. She stopped and gazed at the horizon, where the sky was darkening, the twin suns beginning to set. I don't want to believe the Vortok will actually come here. I don't want to think about what will happen to my people, to Zara. Jack stepped closer to her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. We will protect them. We will protect you, he said firmly. His words were more than just a promise. They were a vow, one he intended to keep, no matter what it took. Alina turned to face him, her eyes filled with doubt. But what if I can't do it? What if I'm not ready to lead my people? Not like my father. I don't have the same strength. You are stronger than you know, Jack said, looking her in the eyes. Your people believe in you. And I believe in you. You have the heart of a leader, Alina. You've already proven it. You saved me as much as I saved you. A moment, Alina was silent, her gaze steady on Jack. Then her lips parted in a soft smile. It was a small smile, but it was genuine, and it made Jack's heart skip a beat. I'm glad you're here, she said, her voice soft but full of gratitude. I don't know if I could do this without you. Just as Jack was about to respond, a loud crash echoed from the direction of the palace gates. The ground shook beneath their feet, and the air was filled with the sounds of alarms blaring. Without thinking, Jack grabbed Alina's hand, pulling her toward the palace. They ran together, their footsteps echoing in the empty halls. Inside, the palace was in chaos. Soldiers rushed to their stations, while the royal guard scrambled to defend the royal family. The king stood at the center of the room, his face stern and focused. He looked up as Jack and Alina entered. The Vortok have attacked, King Borin said, his voice grave. They've breached our outer defenses. It's only a matter of time before they reach the palace. Jack's heart pounded in his chest. The Vortok were here. The battle they had all feared was beginning, and there was no way to turn back. His duty as a protector had never been clearer. He couldn't let anything happen to Alina. He would fight to the last breath to ensure her safety. We need to prepare, Jack said, his voice steady, despite the chaos around him. Where's the safest place? The royal vault, the king said, his face hardening. It's located deep within the palace, and it's reinforced with our best shields. We'll be safe there until reinforcements arrive. Without another word, the king turned and began leading them toward the vault. Jack and Alina followed closely behind, the sounds of the battle outside growing louder with each step. They reached the vault, and the guards quickly activated the security system. Locking the heavy doors behind them, inside the room was dimly lit, with only a few torches lining the walls. It was cold, the air thick with tension. Jack stood beside Alina, his hand still gripping hers, unwilling to let go. The vault may have been safe, but the fear in the air was undeniable. The Vortok were ruthless, and their attack had been swift and deadly. Jack knew it wouldn't be long before they tried to break through the palace defenses. This is all my fault, Alina whispered, her voice trembling. She turned to face Jack, her eyes filled with fear. I hadn't been born a princess. If I hadn't been so important, maybe none of this would have happened. Jack shook his head, stepping closer to her. No, Alina, this is not your fault. You didn't ask for this, but you're here, and you're ready. You've already proven that you're capable. You're a leader, and Zara needs you now more than ever. Alina's eyes searched his, looking for something in his words. Slowly, she nodded, taking a deep breath. You're right, she said, her voice growing stronger. I can't hide from this. I have to face it. I have to protect my people. Just as she spoke, the sound of explosions rattled the vault's walls. The battle was intensifying outside, and Jack knew that time was running out. Couldn't afford to waste any more time. They needed to act. Stay close, Jack said, his hand tightening around hers. I'll keep you safe. No matter what happens, I'll make sure you're protected. As the vault doors began to shake from the force of the Vortek's attack, Jack stood tall, his resolve hardening. He had promised to protect Alina, and he wasn't about to break that promise now. The battle had begun, and Jack knew that this was only the beginning. The Vortok would stop at nothing to destroy Zara, but Jack would not let them succeed. Not while Alina was by his side. The battle raged outside, the sound of explosions and weapons echoing through the palace walls. Inside the royal vault, Jack stood beside Alina, the weight of their situation pressing down on them both. The Vortok had arrived, and the once peaceful world of Zara was now in the midst of a fight for survival. But there was more at stake than just the immediate danger. The bond between Jack and the princess was becoming something more than either of them could have imagined. The royal vault was designed to withstand the fiercest attacks, but even it couldn't protect them forever. The walls shook with each explosion, and Jack's mind raced. He had promised to protect Alina, but what did that truly mean? How deep did this bond go, and what consequences would they face if they failed to defend Zira? Alina's eyes were filled with uncertainty, her once calm demeanor now replaced with fear and confusion. I'd never imagined that her life would be turned upside down like this. She had always known that being the princess of Zara came with responsibilities, but the weight of those duties had never felt so heavy. "I don't understand," Lena whispered, her voice shaking. "What is this bond between us? Thought it was just a tradition, a formality, but now it feels like it's something more." Jack turned to face her, his expression serious. "I don't know either," he admitted. "But I do know. One thing, whatever this bond is, I'll protect you. That's my promise." Alina looked at him, searching his face for answers. "But that's the problem, Jack. This bond is not just about protection. It's about our future, our people. My father has always said that a protector and a princess share a destiny. But I'm starting to think that this isn't just a matter of tradition. It feels like we're being forced into something we can't control." Jack felt a pang of unease. He had known from the beginning that the bond between them wasn't just about being her soldier. But as he stood there with Alina, he realized that their connection went far beyond anything he had imagined. This wasn't just about keeping her safe. It was about their futures, their lives, and the fate of Zara itself. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you," Jack said, his voice steady despite the chaos outside. "When I saved you, it wasn't just a random act. I was chosen, Alina. Chosen to be your protector. It wasn't a decision I made, but it was one I couldn't escape from. There's a reason I was brought here, and I think it has to do with that bond we share." Alina's eyes widened in surprise. "Chosen."
What do you mean?
Jack paused for a moment, trying to find the right words. "The Zarin royal family has a prophecy, one that says a human protector will come and form a bond with the princess. This bond will unite two worlds, bringing peace and strength to both. But it's not just some simple tradition. It's part of something much bigger, something that could change the course of history." Alina shook her head in disbelief. "A prophecy? You mean this was all planned? That I was supposed to be bonded to you?" Jack nodded slowly. "I think so. But I didn't know about it until recently. Honestly, I don't fully understand. All I know is that I was meant to be here, meant to protect you." For a moment, there was silence between them. The truth of Jack's words settled heavily in the air. Alina couldn't deny what he was saying. She had always felt that her life was shaped by forces beyond her control. But the thought that her future was part of some prophecy, that she was bound to someone like Jack, was almost too much to comprehend. "But what if this bond is a mistake?" Alina asked, her voice trembling. "What if I can't live up to it? What if I can't be the leader my people need me to be?" Jack reached out and gently took her hand. "You don't have to do this alone. That's what the bond means, Alina. It means we're in this together. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to do what you think is right. And I'll be right beside you, every step of the way." Alina looked down at their joined hands, the weight of his words sinking in. She had always known she had duty to her people, but now she realized that her duty wasn't just about ruling, it was about leading with others. With Jack by her side, it wasn't just her destiny to fulfill, it was theirs. Outside, the battle raged on, but inside the vault, time seemed to slow. Alina felt a new sense of clarity wash over her. The future of Zara was uncertain, and there was much she still didn't understand. But one thing was clear. She and Jack had a purpose, a shared fate that neither of them could escape. "I'm scared, Jack," Alina admitted softly. "I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't know if I'm ready to be the leader my people need." Jack smiled gently, squeezing her hand. "You don't have to be ready. You just have to take it one step at a time." and I'll be here every step of the way to help you. For the first time since the Vordok attack had begun, Alina felt a sense of peace. It wasn't the peace she had hoped for. She wasn't free from the weight of responsibility. But it was a peace born of knowing that she wasn't alone. Jack was with her, and together they could face whatever came next. The walls of the vault continued to shake as the battle outside intensified. But inside there was a quiet strength growing between them. Jack had been chosen to protect her. Yes, but more than that, he had been chosen to stand with her as a partner. A protector? Yes, but also someone who would share in the responsibility, the hardships, and the victories to come. Whatever happens next. Jack, Alina said, her voice strong now. We face it together. Jack nodded, his resolve matching hers.
Together.
As the sounds of battle echoed through the vault, they stood side by side, ready to face whatever the future held. The bond between them had become something more than just a promise of protection. It was a connection that went beyond duty and destiny, a bond of trust, loyalty, and the shared hope for a better future. The sounds of battle outside grew louder with every passing minute. The Vortok forces were relentless, and the palace defenses were beginning to falter. Jack stood at the door of the royal vault, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword, ready for whatever came next. The weight of his promise to protect Alina pressed heavily on him, but it was a responsibility he was prepared to bear. Inside the vault, Alina sat on a stone bench, her face calm, but her eyes betraying the fear that had settled deep within her. She had always known her life would be full of challenges, but nothing could have prepared her for the storm that had hit so suddenly. The Vortok were here, and the fate of Zira hung in the balance. Jack, Alina said, her voice breaking the silence. What if we lose? What if I can't lead my people the way my father expects me to? Jack turned to her, his expression unwavering. He had spent so many days training, so many hours thinking about what it meant to be her protector. But now, standing in front of her, he realized just how much more this bond had become. It wasn't just about keeping her safe. It was about standing together, facing the unknown and trusting one another. You don't have to do this alone, Jack said softly, his voice full of resolve. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to be yourself. And if we lose, if we don't make it, then at least we faced it together. Alina stood up, her posture firm. But Jack, this isn't just about us anymore. The people of Zara are counting on me. My father has always said that the protector and the princess are bound by destiny. But what if this is all too much for us to handle? Jack stepped forward, closing the distance between them. He could see the uncertainty in her eyes, the weight of the crown she had yet to wear, fully pressing down on her shoulders. The people of Zara are counting on you because they believe in you, Alina. They believe in the princess they've seen grow up with strength and grace. They believe in the leader you're becoming. You've already proven that. Alina looked up at him, searching his eyes. There was something there, something more than just the protector's duty. It was something deeper, something they both shared, though neither of them could fully understand it yet. But one thing was certain, she could not face this alone. Bond, Alina said, her voice barely a whisper. I never asked for it, Jack, but now, feels like it's the only thing standing between us and everything we've ever known. Jack nodded. We didn't ask for it, either of us. But now that we're in it, we have to decide what we're going to do with it. You're not alone. You'll never be alone with me. Alina's eyes filled with emotion as she took his hand. Feeling the warmth and strength in his grip, the connection between them had become more than just a bond of duty. It had become a bond of trust. Trust that neither of them had fully understood until now. It was a trust that went beyond words. Beyond the royal duties, beyond the dangers that lay ahead. We can't wait any longer, Jack said, his voice steady but urgent. We have to act now, before the Vortok break through the palace defenses. Alina nodded, wiping a tear from her eye. I know. But I need to make a choice, Jack. We both do. What do you mean? Alina took a deep breath. If I lead Zara to victory, I will have to give up everything I've known. I'll have to accept the role of queen, and that means I won't be able to live a normal life. I won't be able to choose my own path. The future of the planet will rest on my shoulders, and I can't do that if I'm afraid. Jack's heart ached as he watched her struggle with the decision she had to make. He had seen the strength in her, the leader she was becoming, but now it was clear that even Alina had doubts about the weight of her crown. "And if you don't choose to lead?" Jack asked gently. Alina looked at him, her voice filled with the same uncertainty that had plagued her since the Vortak arrived. "If I don't lead, Zara could fall. So Vortak will destroy everything. But if I choose the crown, I lose myself. So lose the part of me that is still human, still Alina. I don't know what to do." Jack placed his hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to choose alone. We choose together. I'm here for you, no matter what." Alina swallowed hard, her heart heavy with the weight of her decision. She knew Jack was right. They had faced so much together already, and no matter what happened, they had to make this decision together. The people of Zara were looking to her, and she couldn't run from that responsibility. But she didn't have to face it alone. "I choose to fight," Alina said finally, her voice strong once more. "I will lead my people. I will protect them, just as you've protected me. But this is not just my fight, it's ours." Heart swelled with pride for her. She had made the choice, and it was the right one. She had chosen not to run, not to hide behind the crown, but to stand tall and face the challenge head on. And Jack would stand with her. "Then let's do this," Jack said, a smile tugging at his lips. Together, they stepped out of the vault, ready to face the Vortak, ready to protect Zara, and ready to face whatever came next. Their bond, forged in battle and strengthened by trust, would carry them through the darkest moments ahead. The palace was under siege, but Jack and Alina were no longer just protector and princess. They were partners, bound by fate, standing together against the storm.